Hello, good afternoon, everyone from India. I am Dr. Pankil, and we, on behalf of Other Song, Prana, Synergy, HMP, invite you to this wonderful session today. We have a very senior speaker, Dr. Sunita Gandhi, amongst us today. She has a rich experience of 24 years into this field. She has a private clinic and also a senior practicing faculty at the Song. She has worked in the past with different stalwarts in homeopathy, and to mention, she has done her housemanship with Dr. Parinaz Humranwala, where she was instrumental in handling her clinic and also framing various ideas what she teaches. Let's invite her and let's have a patience hearing from Dr. Sunita on hair loss, a common topic which I know every one of you would be facing personally or maybe in your clinic in day-to-day life. Few instructions: kindly refrain from putting any queries in between as it might distract the speaker. We will patiently take all your queries at the end of the session, and use headphone because we have thoroughly checked. The audio and video is absolutely fine. Just use your headphone, or maybe you can just log out and log in again if you have some connectivity issue. Okay, so without wasting a single moment, let's begin. Dr. Sunita, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Pankil. Thank you for the kind words. And good afternoon, everybody. It is so nice to see so many of you joining in for this webinar today. And I'm really excited talking about this topic because this is very close to my heart. Um, it was by chance that this happened with me in my life. Lots of patients would come for hair loss and balding and receding hairlines. And as classical homeopaths that we are, I would take the whole case, repertorize, and prescribe. And I was a little amazed in the beginning of my practice, that's like 24 years back. I saw very good results. I saw people getting their hair back, the receding hairlines getting better, the quality of hair getting better. And that's when I decided, man, this works, and I really need to study it further. And then I got an opportunity to study in a course organized by London College of Homeopathy. And in that, I took up my thesis as alopecia, that's abnormal hair loss. And I really studied this, and I thought, if it is giving us good results, why not take it further? So today I'm going to share with you a few things that have really helped me treating hair loss, how to manage it. It may not sound like a grave disease, but ask the people who suffer from it. Um, it can really have a lot of psychological and emotional impact. So I will begin my presentation with telling you a little about the hair structure, because it's very important to know what you're treating and what is there to be treated, right? So let's start with this. So we talk about hair loss, causes, management, and treatment. The first thing, understanding the anatomy of hair. So if you will see, this is the skin, the outer layer of the skin called epidermis, and the second layer of the skin called the dermis. And this is our hair shaft, and this is the hair root. So a part of the hair is visible outside the skin, but a major part is lodged in here. And hair is primarily made up of a very tough protein called keratin. And that's why I will also talk about the role of proteins in hair growth subsequently. The hair follicle actually anchors the hair into the skin, and that's why it stays in strong. The hair bulb forms the base of the hair follicle. There are some muscles which kind of support it, and this is where the hair grows from, the hair bulb, the hair papilla. It's very important to understand that hair goes through a cycle, which is called the hair growth cycle. Because if we don't understand this, it is very difficult to understand whether the hair loss that is happening is normal or not. Like all of us, when we comb our hair or when we have a bath, a few hair fall. I mean, that's not a reason to panic. We are supposed to lose about 50 to 100 hair every single day. They are the hair that have lived their life and then they fall. So that is normal hair loss. That is the because of the normal hair growth cycle. So what is the hair growth cycle? Hair primarily goes through three different stages. The anagen stage, which is the growing stage. About 85% of our hair, or 80 to 85%, are there in this stage where they are growing. So here it is very well lodged in the hair papillae, and you can see a normal hair growth. Then you see the catagen phase, which is called the resting phase. Here, the hair has already left its root. So actually the bulb is empty and the hair is almost, if we can call it, dead hair. And it is ready to fall. And then comes a telogen phase wherein the new hair growth has started from the same base and it pushes the old hair, which has already left its root, out. So if when you're combing, generally it is the telogen hair that is falling off. When you've scrubbed your hair while having a hair bath, that's the hair which has already left root and that's falling off in normal conditions. But if this gets excessive, that's the time we need to treat. All right. And this is again, after the 3 stages, it goes back into the growth stage. That's the early anagen. This is the hair is lost here. One moment. Okay, the hair is lost here and a new hair is ready to grow back again. So this is the hair growth cycle. The anagen, the growing phase, the catagen, the resting phase, and telogen, the falling phase. Now, this is a very important slide. I'm going to spend a little moment here. These are the different factors that affect hair growth. So when a patient comes to us with hair loss and baal jhad rahe hain, lots of hair falling off, I can see bunches of hair down, you need to find out where is the cause. If that cause really requires treatment or it requires some kind of course correction. Number one, diet. Diet is the biggest, nutritional loss is the biggest reason for hair fall. Diet has to be rich. I'm going to give you 5 or 6 pointers later. What are the things that you can include in your diet to have great hair? But diets which are deficient in proteins, diet deficient in iron, diet deficient in micronutrients or antioxidants can lead. And in today's generation, I have a lot of females coming to my clinic. I think more than 50-60% are always on a diet. I don't know if that's the experience with you. Everybody's dieting to lose weight. You know what happens with dieting? You cut down your food, you cut down calories, but you also cut down nutrition. And that causes a lot of hair fall. We have cases of young girls, 15, 16-year-olds, right into college, and they come up with crash diet, lose 15, 20 kilos, and they lose all their hair as well. So diet plays a very important role. Illness. Prolonged fevers or a prolonged illness can also cause hair loss. I mean, very often when somebody says, I'm suddenly having a lot of hair fall, I ask them, tell me 4 or 6 months back, did you have any kind of fever like malaria, typhoid, dengue? These are debilitating fevers which can cause hair loss subsequently. So very important in our case taking to inquire of any cause that can cause hair, any cause or any fever or any illness that can cause hair fall. And usually the hair loss doesn't start immediately after the fever. It's about 3 to 4 months later that you'll see shedding of hair. So go back and ask history. Did something happen 4 months back, 5 months back in your life? Hormonal influence. Today is the era of PCODs, polycystic ovarian disease, very high and rampant in young girls, that thyroid disorders, a lot of hormones can play an important role in hair loss. New generation problem, overprocessing. I know in my practice, whoever's there, I've seen either they're coloring their hair, they're perming their hair, they're straightening their hair, or they're blow drying their hair. So there's a lot of heat, chemicals that are used in today's generation to have the crown and glory, as I may say. So over processing, however you take care of, do the best products, that definitely damages the hair shaft and thus the hair growth. So that's a very, very important point. So if you see people over processing their hair, I mean, if there is too much loss, you can tell them go slow with it. If you are coloring your hair once in 20 days, see to it that you prolong the period. You go, without coloring for maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So the lesser amount of chemical in hair, the better it would be. Shock and stress. I mean, who better would know than homeopaths? The impact of emotional stresses and shock that can lead to a varied kind of problems in our body and also our hair. So shock is also another important point. Using certain medications like BP medications, medicines for diabetes, cancer drugs, a lot of these can also cause hair fall. Allergies, and of course, age factor. The younger you are, the better the hair, they say, no longer. We'll talk about it subsequently, but as we grow older, definitely the prevalence of hair fall increases. Plus also there is thinning of hair, which we call androgenetic alopecia, which I will talk about subsequently. So age is definitely a factor, but hair loss is no longer an old people's disease. I'll tell you that. I have a lot of children coming with hair fall. There are other causes, so we can help that as well. Let's go further. So generally, the statistics that say 94% of adult males develop some kind of frontoparietal recession of hairline after puberty. And women, about 25% of women will also develop. So again, this was a myth that balding is for men. I'm going to show you some pictures of some of my own patients subsequently. A lot of women also go through balding. So again, a myth. Balding is no longer a male thing. It affects men and women, but of course, yeah, men are more prone because of the androgens. Okay, so the common types of hair loss. Androgenetic hair loss or androgenetic alopecia is the commonest. Our hair follicles have got androgen receptors, and that very often causes the hair follicles to mature faster and they get smaller and smaller, thus leading to thinning of hair. And this is one of the main reasons for alopecia or balding or hair loss. Second kind of alopecia is alopecia areata. This is an autoimmune disorder. When you see hair loss in patches, like a complete circular patch of hair not there, that's what we call alopecia areata. It's an autoimmune disorder, and it can be associated with a lot of other autoimmune problems, like if the person has ulcerative colitis or lupus or SLE, different rheumatoid arthritis. So this could be associated to other autoimmune disorders or could primarily present as one straight off when they come to us. So this is also quite prevalent. Alopecia totalis or universalis is complete loss of hair. And that means you will lose hair from your scalp, eyebrows, eyelashes, all over your body. I have seen very few patients, but I have had a couple in my practice. Very, very tough situation to handle. This is also an autoimmune disorder, but it covers the whole body. Alopecia barbae is loss of hair from the beard. And here also we can have, it can be like a complete small patch like an aerator that come up, and homeopathy does beautifully to treating alopecia barbae as well. Telogen effluent. This is also very, very prevalent. This is a state when, for what reason, we do not know. A lot of research is on why telogen effluent happens, but it is very difficult to understand and we really don't know a full cause, but definitely we know what the presentation is. There will be a sudden loss of hair, and suddenly, like 80-85% of the hair are in the anagen phase, that's a growing phase, and about 10 to 15% are in the falling phase. And this is the normal ratio that is maintained. And for reason unknown to us, suddenly a lot of our hair follicles go into the telogen phase, that is the falling phase. And abnormally or prematurely, the hair growth stops and the hair starts going into a falling phase. So it can lead to a lot of thinning of hair. Generally, in telogen effluent, you do not lose your frontal hairline. Like how in androgenetic alopecia, you start have a receding frontal hairline. Telogen effluent usually would be in the middle of the scalp, and they start losing hair. Hair also becomes thin. In some cases, I've seen different, the hair actually changing color also. So I'm going to show you some pictures of telogen effluent also, which have got better with homeopathic medicines completely. And but it's very, very debilitating to the patient, because for reasons unknown, suddenly there is a big loss of hair. And traction alopecia. This is one kind of alopecia which can be totally prevented. What is traction alopecia? Traction is what? When you give a pull. So this generally happens when you're tying your hair too tightly. I remember as a child, I had a tendency to wear a ponytail. In school, you're supposed to tie your hair very tight into a plait or a pony. And I used to take my hair on one side and tie it a pony behind. And I started seeing that, this side, the hair became less. And that's what is traction alopecia. And it is the pull in the hair that causes the hair roots to get damaged. It is difficult to get back this hair if it is prolonged. It can be prevented early, so when young girls come to me, or even children, and the mothers have tied their hair up really tight, I very often tell them, make a loose ponytail, make a braid or a plait which does not pull the hair. A lot of people have braiding, like they will braid their hair and keep it on. That's another method of losing hair. And if it goes on for a longer period of time, it is difficult to reverse. By then, the hair follicles get damaged. So this is something that can be prevented at early stages. So hair care is important for traction alopecia. Okay, now what are the investigations? So we have finished with the history, the types of alopecia. And now when patients come to us and we are suspecting that hormonal issues could be a problem, this is a good slide. Doing these tests can be of great importance when you are not able to really find out whether there is a cause that can be corrected. These are our hormonal levels, the DHEAS, the testosterone, androstenedione, prolactin, follicular stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormones are some of the tests that we will want to do if we are suspecting a hormonal cause for alopecia. Serum iron studies, I think practically everybody should do, or at least a simple CBC, which will tell you your hemoglobin level, because very often I think anemia falls the highest in range for alopecia. So correcting the hemoglobin is the simplest thing one can do. So if you do not see that the CBC shows that the hemoglobin is too low, I think one should go in for the iron studies and to rule out what the iron stores are, and that is causing the problem. T3, T4, TSH would be a good test to do if you're suspecting thyroid, because suspecting today's generation, thyroid problems are very, very common. And I think this is a must do when somebody comes with hair loss. These are two tests. One is a simple test that can be done in the clinic, which is a simple hair pull test, wherein you can, approximately take about 100 hairs. So you pull out a small quantum of hair and you turn it and you need to pull it. And if 2 or 3 hair come out, that's normal. But if 8, 10 hair come out on a pull, that means more hair are damaged, hair follicles are damaged, or hair is more in the telogen phase. So we know that this requires treatment. And if certain cases, we also, very few, but we also go through a scalp biopsy. That will help us also to find out the underlying cause if all others are ruled out. So this is in rare conditions that I do find and have to go in for a scalp biopsy when nothing is really helping and you don't know what the cause could be. So these are some of the tests that one can do to kind of find out the underlying cause, and thus we can help treat it. All right. Now, this is Norwood's scale for diagnosis of androgenetic alopecia, the commonest form of alopecia in men. So, this goes like this, from above down, then again from here to here. So if you will see in type 1, there is a slight bend here. This is when you see the hairline indenting, the V that we call, the indentation happens. And as the alopecia, androgenetic alopecia goes further, the indentation becomes further and further in type 2, type 3. By type 3 vertex, you will start seeing the vertex also losing hair, and you start seeing thinning here and a bald patch appearing at the vertex. So you know how advanced the patient is in androgenetic alopecia when they come to you. That's one. This also helps us see the reversal in our follow-ups. So where have we reached after treatment? So, I mean, a type 7 is not going to go to a type 1. May I say it's a warning, or it's obvious, this stage does not reach here, but if this stage reaches here, I think it'll be very good. If this stage reaches here, it'll be very good. So this is to basically find out what stage your patient is in when they have come, and subsequently after treatment, what is the level they have reached. So you will try and take them 3-4 levels higher. Now, also you see, like from type 4 onwards, the receding frontal hairline keeps getting more. The vertex also starts becoming thinner and thinner. And over a period of time, this whole frontal hairline is lost. See how here there's hardly like a band of hair left. And finally, the whole frontal, then you see a lot of old men with the frontal baldness. There is very little androgen receptors behind. So one does not necessarily lose hair from this portion. So men generally would lose hair in this crown area, right? So this is the Norwood scale. We also have a scale in women, which is called the Ludwig scale. This helps to diagnose the different female hair loss patterns. Now, in females, we don't see too much receding hairlines, but we see basically there is a gap in the parting or the partition, but parting, I think, yeah, parting they call it. So if this is almost near normal, you will see that this is widening. It widens further. Then this is almost like a bald patch. You will still see that the frontal hairline is not affected as yet. It could go, but in advanced stages, it almost mimics how the androgenetic alopecia in men, if this slide I can go back to, almost this way. Now, why I say this again, I had a 67-year-old woman who came to me in this stage, and she said, I've heard you treat a lot of hair loss and balding issues. Will you be able to help me? Because I had treated her daughter and she did very well, but her daughter was 47 years old. She was 67. I didn't know what to do. I was like, this stage where she had practically no hair left. I'm going to show you a picture of her subsequently. And I said, look, auntie, I'm going to try this on you. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I don't know, because this is very, very bad hair loss. And I don't know at your age and your stage, we'll be able to help. But I think we treated her for 9 to 10 months and we could get her back to somewhere here. from this phase right up to this phase, or even, you know, to grade 3. And she was very happy. When we started, she said, Beta, wherever it is, if you can stop it there, I'm also happy that I don't lose everything. But if it comes back, I'll be happier. So we tried, and it was the first trial. This was about, I think, 17, 18 years back that I did. And after her results, it gave me a lot of confidence to take up even elderly patients with hair loss. So you can bring them to better, but I will not always say that you can bring them to normal. So probably at this stage comes here much faster. At this stage to reach here, I haven't really experienced, but I definitely see that they get better, much, much better. And that's also a very positive sign. Yes, now, homeopathic approach to hair loss. We've understood the reasons for hair loss. We've worked on what are the pointers that we have to do in case taking for hair loss. What are the diagnostic tests that are to be done? And once it is established, what are we going to do? We are champs at doing the case. We take it as a regular case. You know, there's no difference in methods. The case taking process is as how we have always followed. You take all the history, you take the mind state, you take their physical generals, physical particulars, everything. And then as you work it, whichever method you're working, you're doing the sensation method, you're doing the classical homeopathy, whichever method, and you come to a remedy. So that is what you will need to prescribe. And constitutional homeopathic medicine is the best treatment for alopecia. There is nothing like a specific for alopecia. I will definitely tell you a couple of rubrics in a bit that have really helped me in my cases, but there is no one remedy for all. It is patient specific. Individualization is prime, and we have to do that and follow the protocols that we have been following with our case taking and prescriptions. Along with homeopathic medication, a few things that we would want to add on would be diet counseling. So if there is a deficiency, even Hahnemann says you need to take care of the deficiency. So if there is a known factor, we'll tell them if the hemoglobin is low, then we need to get the hemoglobin up. If there's an underlying cause like hypothyroid or PCOD, then we tackle that with our medication. If there's any lifestyle change that is required in these cases, then we advise that. So I'm going to talk in the next slide about the nutrition that I have a small five simple things that one should include. I mean, I could give huge names. This is good in selenium, that is good in silica, biotin, different vitamins. But, you know, I don't give too many big names to the patients. I tell them do simple 5 things that will help take care of your diet. I'll tell you in a bit, but before that, counseling on hair care. So a little bit, if you advise them on how you would want to take care of your hair, simple steps. After a bath, don't immediately comb your hair. You know, where you've already ruffled up the hair. So a lot of hair have already kind of, the follicles are a little prone to falling of hair at that time. So wait for a bit. Let the hair be semi-dried. So you towel dry your hair and then run a comb for, I mean, maybe after 15 or 20 minutes of washing your hair. That could be 1. 2, leaving hair is good. Leaving hair open is good for women. But if you have a chance, you need to keep if you have longer tresses, then keep it tied. That's better. 3, especially when you're sleeping, see to it that you've loosely tied your hair up, women, and you don't sleep with completely open hair. But again, that causes a lot of, ruffle with the pillow, and again can lead to a little more damage. 4th important point is after you've had a hair bath, see to it that the last 1 minute in the shower, or maybe the last 4 or 5 mugs of water that you're putting on your hair is cool water, like cold or cool water. We all like a hot water bath, most of us, but hot water doesn't do very well with hair. So after you've shampooed your hair, run your hair with a little bit of room temperature to cooler water. That also is very good for hair. So few tips on hair care also add up when you're talking about dealing with hair loss cases. So this is my simple 5 foods for hair loss: proteins, almonds, walnuts, flax seeds, and fresh fruits. You know, now my patients who come for alopecia or hair loss, I know this by heart. I initially write it for them that this is what you need to take, and every subsequent visit I see to it that I ask them in the follow-up, are you doing the 5 foods for hair loss? Because most of the times they've forgotten in the first follow-up. So you remind them and take care of it. So the 5 foods, the 5 superfoods. This video is also there on YouTube. If you will type my name and go, the 5 foods for hair loss and what contains, you could have a look from there also. But protein is my main thing. Hair is made up of the strong protein called keratin that I spoke to you in my first slide. Proteins are very, very important. What are the sources of protein? Vegetarian sources of protein can be paneer, tofu, anything that can be sprouted. So if you know any of your mung, mat, whatever, whichever, or chana, whatever you can sprout, that becomes better in proteins. Non-vegetarian, eggs are a super good source of protein, especially the egg white. So if you can manage egg whites in your diet every day, great. I'm a vegetarian, but I still, you know, I feel egg whites are great. It's a complete protein. So if that can be managed, fine. Chicken and fish are also good sources of proteins. So you have to see that every meal of yours has got some protein. I mean, what is the quantum of protein required? 1 milligram per kg body weight is what is your normal protein requirement, but I think none of us fulfill it. So I would roughly how I would tell my patients would be, see to it that you're having 100 grams of protein in your meal. 100 grams is like maybe 8 cubes of paneer, or you can have a big bowl of sprouts, or 4 egg whites in your breakfast, and then you know the other meals you can have something else. So protein is the most essential part of your diet. See to it each meal has got protein in it. Second, almonds. Simple to have, 5 to 8 almonds every day. Very, very good source, omega-3, 6, very good for hair. Takes care of the hair root, takes care of the hair shaft. Have 1 or 2 walnuts every day. So 1 walnut is the 2 halves. So you have like 2 halves or 4 halves of walnut. That is also very good in omega-6 fatty acids, which is very good for the scalp. And as a byproduct, also very good for your heart. Flax seeds. This is a superfood. You know, flax seeds, or in Hindi, we call them alsi. You can have flax seeds in whatever form you like. Powder it, just sprinkle it over your food, have it roasted. However, you know, churn it in the mixer and have it and add it in whatever you're eating. I don't know, but having 1 tablespoon of flax seeds every day, very good for hair. And the final thing, which is simplest, to have fresh fruits. You know, fruits are a high source of micronutrients. Micronutrients are those which are required in very small quantity, but they're very, very essential for hair and skin alike. So, and they're also a rich source of antioxidants. So my advice to my patients generally is, have a mixed bag of fruits. Don't have one fruit a day. Like I always say, we have the dictum, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But you know, the apple only gives you one kind of nutrients. You can't have that nutrient every single day. You have apple and pear one day, you have banana and muskmelon the other day, you have mango and lychee the third day. I don't know, whichever fruits are available in the market, have 2 or 3 different fruits every single day. So you can kind of have lots of colors in your diet. Like today, we are in the lockdown situation. One, we are not getting too many vegetables. And you know what, we're tending to make one dish meals these days, because it kind of, no house help, no maids, lot of work. So today my meal was paneer with capsicum, with cauliflower, with French beans and carrots. So I've added red color, I've added green, I've added yellow, and I've done my paneer, that's protein. So this has taken care of the 0.1 and 0.5, and almonds, walnuts, and flax seeds are easy to have for anybody. You can have it any time of the day, before meal, after meal, in between meals, but this must be a part of your daily diet. And I often tell my patients, it's not for the time that you're under treatment for hair loss. This is a way of life. Even after you stop coming to me for treatment, you please continue these 5 foods, because that will allow your hair to get the right nutrition for life, right? So 5 superfoods for hair loss. Finally, this is about treatment. Now I'm going to come to you about some rubrics that we see in our repertory, which have really helped me. So this is a general rubric. Where are you going to find hair loss in the repertory? So I'm talking about complete repertory, because that is what we are using most times. So in the head section, you will find falling out of hair, alopecia, and it's got like 219 remedies. So there are a huge number of remedies here, but a few rubrics that have really helped are as follows. See, this falling out of hair, alopecia in children. You know, if you have heard the previous slide, you saw that I told you that age is one of the factors where we will want to rule out, you know, older age people are more prone to hair loss. But no, we today in our practice see even youngsters coming. And this is a nice rubric. There was a case where I had used Baraita prescribed on taking the whole history, but it felt good when I saw this rubric in children. You can see only 6 remedies are there in the rubric falling out of hair, alopecia. So this helped me once in one of my cases. So this is an interesting rubric. Postpartum. I'll stop here for a moment to talk about postpartum alopecia. You'll see this rubric as falling out of hair, delivery, parturition after puerperal. And we have 10 remedies here. When to treat postpartum alopecia. Postpartum alopecia for the first, from month 4 to month 8 or 9 is normal. Yes, what happens is estrogen level is very high in pregnancy. So when the estrogen level is high, it does not allow the hair to fall off. So the hair is in the resting phase. It doesn't go into the telogen phase. So it's primarily either in the anagen or in the catagen phase. That's why it's important to know the hair cycle. And it just stays in that. And after 3rd or 4th month postpartum is when the telogen effluent starts. That suddenly all the hair that has been in the resting phase goes in the falling phase, and you will see our women after pregnancy losing lots and lots of hair. This is normal. So, you know, if a person comes in 4th month postpartum and says, I'm having a lot of hair fall, all you need to do is reassurance that this will settle, because this is normal. The hair hasn't fallen for the whole year. The hair will fall for some time. So from month 4 to month 8, if it falls, it's okay. All of this hair is going to come back, because after the telogen, the hair will go into early anagen phase and the hair will grow back. The reason why you need to treat postpartum alopecia would be if you have any other cause associated, if there is stress, which is also very important, new baby in the house, sleepless nights, stress, you're not able to eat correctly, nutritional deficiencies. So those things can be taken care of, and treat it only if you see that after 6 to 7 months also the hair loss hasn't reduced. Then you start treating it as a postpartum alopecia, and not like a regular telogen effluent postpartum. Some of the remedies that we see are there in this slide. We also ask in our case taking if there has been any disease, like I said, malaria, typhoid, dengue, any long fevers, any debilitating diseases can also be the cause of alopecia. So this is a rubric which I very often use as part of my repertorial totality, that is falling out of hair after diseases. You'll see most of our, like, China is there, ferrum is there, hepar is there, silica, thallium, thallium sulf. These are all for, when the disease has been the cause. So again, a word of caution, do your whole case. And this is also one of the important rubrics that you will take in your totality if the cause is after disease. This is unusual. Usually hair does not fall in pregnancy. I told you, high estrogen and progesterone levels, mainly estrogen, prevents the hair fall. But there's only one remedy which has hair fall in pregnancy. That's lachesis. So that's also an interesting rubric. This is this. I will show you the picture of this girl, 13-year-old, who came up with a major stage of telogen effluent, lost practically, I think, maybe 50–60% of her hair from the center. I took her case. This was very early in my practice. I think it was in 1996, when I was a few months into practice, that I saw this patient. And she was 13 years old. I took this rubric, baldness in young people. And they were only 5. And I prescribed her tuberculinum because she had the state of tuberculinum. And I was very happy that I saw tuberculinum also in this rubric. Remarkable change. That was my first case, which gave me the confidence, okay, yes, alopecia can be treated with homeopathy, many years back. So a couple of rubrics that have helped, I'm sharing with you. Menopausal women. Menopause again. What happens in menopause? Estrogen starts falling again. So in menopause, you'll start seeing women coming up with a lot of listless hair, brittle hair, dry hair, hair which does not look healthy. Of course, there are only 2 remedies here, but we have a lot of different remedies that can be given to menopausal. You do the whole case. It always makes more sense. But menopause, again, a very high incidence when women around 45, 50, 55-year-olds come with hair loss and receding hairlines. Alopecia areata, where you look for that in the repertory? In spots, for hair falling out, alopecia in spots. It's called alopecia areata, the autoimmune variety. And we have a host of remedies here. This is also one case I have used this rubric, baldness with soreness of scalp. Her complaint was that from wherever the hair has fallen or wherever the hair has come out, it is very sensitive. She's saying the pain is too much in the hair follicles, and Zinkum is the only remedy in this rubric, incomplete. So this was also an interesting rubric, and I've used it in one patient. When the lost hair is replaced by white hair. So we have white hair grows in spots after the falling of hair, Sorinum and Vinca. Okay, this again, I very recently had done a case. We had prescribed this patient of the other song actually, hyoscyamus, and for alopecia areata, after of course doing the case, but he wasn't improving. So we redid the case, and he also had hair fall from the eyebrows. And after redoing the case, I was coming to silica, and it was a great help to see that we also have silica in this rubric. And now this patient is doing extremely well. He is, I can say, almost 80% better now with this areata. Other local areas where you can see alopecia, mustache. Men can lose hair from the mustache, from the beard, or you see the alopecia areata or the alopecia barbae, as it's called. That is also, you will see it in face falling of hair. Yeah, this rubric is not there in the head section. So this is also interesting to see. And finally, very recently, I had a patient who had seborrheic dermatitis of the scalp. The whole area was filled with pustules, and then after the pustules would heal, he would lose hair from that area, and whatever the, even after the pustules settled down, new hair did not come. First, and I use this rubric: head eruptions moist, eating destroying the hair. And this patient was prescribed staphysagria also on the whole state, but did beautifully well, and not just did the eruption settle down and his scalp looked very healthy, his hair also came back. So these were some of the rubrics that have done very well in my practice. I mean, I've used them in my practice, so I thought I would share with you. And finally, now I'd like to share some pictures of some cases that have done well. These are my patients, and they're before and after pictures in my practice. So this is that 13-year-old girl with telogen effluent. So if you can see, she had lost a lot of hair here, and I had given her tuberculinum, also use balding in young people as a rubric here, and we could get her back completely to normal. If you see, the hair had become brown and even thin, but after the treatment, it became to its normal, and she's absolutely fine now. I'm still in touch with her. Young girl that time, now grown up, married, she's doing very well. So this is alopecia areata. This is how you'll see areata in round circular patches with absolutely no hair. Okay. And this was what happened after treatment. It completely covers up here before and after. This is a female pattern baldness. This case was of hypothyroid woman. She is the, I think she was the daughter of my old patient who's 67-year-old. I'm going to show it to you. And this is, how I tell you that the pattern widened. So she was almost grade 3, and we reverted her back completely. Also took care of the thyroid condition. This is the mother who came with advanced baldness. And she says, if you can just let these many hair also stay with me, I'll be happy. But after almost 9 months of treatment, we could get her back to this level. And she was more than happy. So this was and this gave me a lot of hope and a lot of confidence to take up older patients as well. So this was, I have also published this case in the Homeopathic Magazine. Androgenetic alopecia, you can see the frontal baldness, and we could revert it back almost, I think, 80%. And again, she's 54 or 55-year-old, if I'm not mistaken. She's in mid-50s and did very well on a very rare remedy. It was not covered in any rubrics, but this case went into the sensation level, and I had prescribed tungsten to her completely on her case. So the records are there in a Symphony. You can have a look at this case. My whole case is presented there. And this is how she had, even the same patient. This is the Vertex, and this is almost 80% better. So this is the result that we could get for her in androgenetic. So my conclusion is people that homeopathic medicines do brilliantly in treating hair loss. So take up cases when they come to you with confidence, with the right intention. With our medication, we are able to beautifully reverse some cases completely, or even better a lot of them from the stage from where they have come to a stage that is much, much better. So I would urge you all to take up cases of alopecia when they come to you, not get scared. We have very, very good results. Homeopathic medicines are very effective in treating hair loss. And if there are any queries subsequently and you would want to connect, this is my email ID, and I could certainly help you with this. And now, if that brings us to the end of my presentation, we would take up any questions that come up right now. So Pankil, if you will let me know if there's anything that you want me to.
Hi, yes.
Yeah.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much. It was indeed a wonderful session. And especially I like the counseling part which you said, because I think most of us miss out on this point and directly jump into which remedy to give and which tonics to suggest. There were few queries which I could pick up. One was how much quantity of flaxseed and how about black till?
Flax seeds, 1 tablespoon is what I generally advise. So either 1 tablespoon of powdered flax seeds or even whole. The whole flax seed is a little difficult to have because it's an oily seed. It's high in omega-6 fatty acids, omega-3 also. But I generally tell them to roast it. Like in a plain pan, you roast it, make it a little hard, and then you can have it, or dry grind it in the dry mixer and put the powder in whatever you're having for your breakfast, your cornflakes or in your chapati atta or whatever. But it just should be that one person is consuming 1 tablespoon a day.
1 tablespoon. So that means 15 grams.
Yeah, almost 12, 15 grams. Yeah.
Okay. Another query is, how about treating alopecia universalis?
As I mentioned in my talk, alopecia universalis is an aerator in its fullest forms. Difficult case. You should take it up. I've not had very good results personally. There was only one patient I saw him getting back some hair, but it's a difficult case to treat. But definitely you should try it. I mean, out of the 3 cases that have come to me, 1 has done well, the other 2 haven't responded. So this is my personal experience.
Okay. One more. Do you use any specific potency or do you use any tinctures?
Potency, I worked with the levels of experience. I don't know if everybody is aware of it. So the potency is selected depending upon what the case is, which level the patient is on. If he's in the emotional level, then I use a 200. If he's in the delusion level, then a 1M. If he's in the sensation level, then I'm using a 10M. So there is no one potency for all. Again, it's very, very patient specific and how they're presenting.
Any guidelines about treatment of dandruff?
See, dandruff, it's a scalp condition. So that can also cause hair loss. That's also one of the conditions that can cause hair loss. You treat it like any other case. So there's no, again, one remedy that you will give for dandruff. And a little hair care is also, the dandruff has happened. It needs to be cleansed well. So I tell them on, cleaning the hair, leaving the shampoo on for about 1 or 2 minutes for it to work, oiling the hair before having a bath. Oh, I forgot to mention this in my talk when I talk about hair care, and also specifically when you have dandruff or a dry scalp, oiling your hair half an hour before having a bath. So, I mean, I tell people, if you just switched on the geyser, or if you think now I'm going to go for a bath and you're getting ready for a bath, just take some maybe 10 ml of oil and just apply it gently on your hair, half an hour to 1 hour. If you have 1 hour, very good. But otherwise, even half an hour before, you oil your hair and wash it. So that really helps dandruff also. Any kind of dry scalp, itching, scaling, very good. So hair care is primarily a important counseling question here.
Any home recipe or maybe something which you would suggest for hair oil or shampoo?
No, I prefer plain coconut oil or, the Figaro olive oil. I don't want my patients to use perfumed oils, medicated oils. So generally, those who don't like the smell of coconut oil is the best in my opinion. So if not that, then the extra virgin Figaro olive oil. These are the only 2 oils that I generally tell for no other specific reason because they're non-medicated.
Great. So I think this sums up few of them. We do have a lot of other queries, but I would suggest you can just drop an email to us and we would try to get them answered without wasting much of your time. And thank you so much for patience hearing. And I hope you all enjoyed this interesting session. Sign in with us, stay tuned with us. We have lots and lots of other informative webinars coming up. Today we have Dr. Saptarship Banerjee in the evening, 8:30 to 9:30. Tomorrow we have Dr. Afreen at 4 to 5. Then we have Dr. Vijay Vaishnav tomorrow night at 8:30, speaking about coma cases. And day after tomorrow, I'll be speaking on various skin cases, where maybe if I have time, I will touch something about alopecia areata. Thank you so much, Dr. Sunita. It was really pleasure hearing you and learning from your experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions. You can email. It'll be good, and we'll revert.
Please, if you can show your slide, email ID.
Email. Dr. Sunita Gandhi 1@gmail.com or Sunita Gandhi @theothersong.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.